Hello, listeners. This is Kat. Welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Watch Your Heroes Fall. This will be Part 15, Chapter 17, entitled Phase 2, Scene 8, Break a Leg. Pro hero Mirko doesn't get as much action as she'd like on patrols. She's got thighs that can crush a skull and arms that can hole punch a sternum through. So she gets why the villains are too scared to come out and fight, but she wishes they'd consider how fucking bored she gets. Hole punching a sternum would liven up the day a little, but no, they would all prefer to wait until a tamer hero is on patrol and leave Rumi to kick rocks around gutters. Sometimes a cute girl asks for an autograph, but that's as eventful as most days get. It fucking sucks. She's at the corner of Titan and H Street, and she casts a passing glance down an errant alleyway. It's a dead end, just a spot to put restaurant dumpsters and homeless people. And Mirko's job is fighting villains, not displacing homeless people. But she gives it a good once-over just in case. She wouldn't put it past a villain to hide amongst the trash and the homeless to fly under the radar. And this distraction is why she's caught off guard by a civilian scream from out on the main road. Two kids, a blonde one and a black-haired one, both in school uniforms, are sprinting away from a black portal, dripping villains out onto the asphalt. One, Mirko knows, Dabi. He sizes her up with ash falling out from his fingertips. The other one is smaller, younger, a two-toned kid. He looks familiar, but Mirko can't place from where. But fuck it. Two villains on her patrol day. At least one from the League? Oh, it's fucking Christmas. Mirko bolts forward. It's time to punch some holes in some sternums. She zeroes in on the short one first. He's an unknown variable, and she'd like to take him out of the equation. One kick to the head before anyone has time to react, and you'd think that villains would have better fucking reaction times, and the brat would be on the ground wishing he'd never decided to dabble in villainy. But the taller one, who isn't just partially purple, he's scarred partially purple, she realizes as she closes in, jumps in the way, and takes her kick to bared arms, knocking his little sidekick to the ground behind him. The kid's deer-in-the-headlights look is unmistakable, even as Mirko hops back to dodge a wall of blue flame. The kid didn't think that Dabi would protect him, which makes sense to Mirko because Dabi is a villain. Why would he protect some kid? Villains unmistakably believe, only in survival of the fittest, they don't exactly nurture protégés. So to Mirko, it makes perfect sense that Dabi would leave the kid to take her kick. But he didn't. And even more confusing, the kid seems surprised about being protected. There are layers that Mirko doesn't have time to peel back here and now. Not with the wall of flame starting to dissipate. The villains are tensed and ready. Dabi's scars have torn at the edges, and blood is dripping to the ground, where the rivulets sizzle into a dark stain. The kid is watching it too, and Mirko now has a strategy. Dabi will protect that kid. It helps that the kid is a fucking space cadet. She goes for the head again, with a well-aimed kick, and she expects Dabi to protect again, but instead Mirko's right leg meets a wall of ice that traps her at the ankle. She expects to feel the crack of a bone in two, but her body is reliable, and her left leg braces her against the ice. With a jump back on her left leg, she swings back with a rabbit kick force and smashes the ice, carrying the kick through toward the kid, who is entirely off guard. Or so she thinks, but when he dodges, she's unprepared and her leg smashes through the brick wall of a restaurant, sending the civilians inside who had been watching with phones recording to social media, scattering and screaming from the presumed safety of the building. She disregards them. She didn't kick anyone, but the damage is done. Her safety fund through the commission will pay for the damages. That's all she can do now. Dabi and the villain kid are on the other side of the street now. Mirko realizes she's been distracted for a few seconds at least, and neither Dabi nor the, apparently at least somewhat capable, kid have touched her. They've had the chance. Mirko knows Dabi's stats. He could have incinerated her in a few seconds from 30 feet away, and the kid's ice could have had her up to the neck by now. They're planning something, but for now they're low in their fighting stances. Dabi's still got a steady drip of blood from both arms, and the kid's got a nasty scrape on the side of his face, probably a brick or something from the restaurant. Either way, they've both taken a hit, and Mirko is unharmed. And now, they're prioritizing some plot over a quick opportunity hit on her. A shiver of animal instinct runs up Mirko's spine, and her ears cast wildly around, searching for a sound from whoever is watching her. But they pick up nothing, and Mirko isn't taking her eyes off two plotting villains in the middle of a fight. The kid charges this time, with Dabi's flames on its tail and then forking off to surround him and Mirko. Then there's red flames, with the blue, and for fuck's sake, this kid has two quirks, With quarters this close, Mirko can see that the kid has a nasty red scar on his face, too. "Nice face," she spits. She doesn't mean it. She doesn't care who has what scars. But she wants him to forget whatever plan he has, and a personal jab like that will get under anyone's skin. But he doesn't react. He wraps his fist in ice and slams it toward her face, missing by a hair. He says, "Thanks, my mom made it for me." Which is just an absolute conversation stopper, but Mirko still needs to throw him off his rhythm, so she tries again. "Did she make you a villain too?" But again he's unperturbed, as if this is some business transaction, not a red-blooded fight. He says, "No, my dad did that," and sends a trail of ice shooting from his foot, trapping Mirko on the other side with fire. But Mirko jumps away from both, outside of Dabi's ring of fire, and guns for Dabi instead. A kick misses Dabi's shoulder, where most of that scarring probably resides, and will probably make a kick hurt way worse. Her foot collides instead with the concrete front of an apartment building, and the wall crumbles. She manages a punch to Dabi's face, which tears at the scarring there, and sends him reeling back. The kid comes to the rescue, and ice gets halfway up Mirko's calf, and she's quick to kick it off in turn and sucker punch the kid in the gut. And then the weirdest thing happens, and the kid just falls over. Just collapses. Mirko didn't hit him that hard. She knows she didn't. Her body is reliable, and she didn't hit a literal child, villain or not, hard enough to make him fold in on himself like that. The kid vomits on the ground. Mirko wants to say she's proud of the hit because it took a villain out so quickly, but he's a child, and she hit him, and now he's puking and curled up, and he looks so small, and she hardly realizes it when Dabi swoops around her and picks the kid up like an older brother, smearing blood all over both of their clothing. They're retreating, she realizes belatedly, and she spins to kick out Dabi's legs before he reaches that portal they're headed towards. But some green-haired kid steps out, the League's new figurehead, Deku. She doesn't know much about him except that he was a UA student in his first year before suddenly defecting to lead the League a few weeks ago. And he has an incredibly powerful quirk. Deku sprints to stand between Mirko and Dabi and takes the full force of her kick at a crouch without flinching. He shouts, "Hitoshi!" And then Mirko turns partially to find a new threat and another kid. Why is the League recruiting so many children? Standing a few feet away. Her fighting stance lowers slightly to accommodate a wider battlefield. Her ears twitch for the slightest indications of movement, and then she hears, "What's the opposite of up?" And she grins sharply, holding back a laugh at the ridiculous question, and replies, "Down, dipshit." And then her world blanks. Shota replays the footage. The commission put together a comprehensive look at the fight after the headlines hit like another brick to the left temple. It's comprised of some of the many videos of the fight on social media. It's everywhere. A building collapsed, after all. The facts of it are that pro-hero Mirko was out on patrol. She encountered the villain Dabi and the recently defected Todoroki Shoto on H Street. They fought. She defeated both of them, taking no hits herself and sustaining significant damage to 2 buildings and minor damage to 3 more. And then the recently defected Deku and Shinsou Hitoshi arrived on the scene. Hitoshi activated his quirk on her and made her let the villains go before everyone disappeared into a portal made by the villain Kurogiri. By this time, pro-hero Kamui Woods arrived on the scene just in time to save a damaged apartment building from collapsing from the load-bearing wall Mirko had destroyed earlier in the fight. It was a PR mess for several reasons. The first being that Mirko herself came out of this entirely uninjured. It was 4-on-1. And the League has never been shy about doing maximum damage. Regardless, everyone present took damage except Shinsou Hitoshi, who was only present for about 15 seconds, and Mirko. This would seem like a good thing, except for the fact that the most popular footage from the fight is when Mirko punched Todoroki in the gut, and Todoroki collapsed immediately, vomiting and unable to stand. Posted originally on Instagram and reposted by dozens of larger accounts since, with the caption, "That's a child? Like, sure, it's horrible villains are recruiting kids now, but did Mirko go overboard?" The second issue is, of course, the massive structural damage. 3 civilians sustained incredibly minor injuries from falling debris at the family restaurant. Thanks to Kamui Woods, the apartment didn't fall entirely, but the foundation crack will cost the building's owner hundreds of thousands of yen to rehouse the tenants and repair the building. Then there's the broken storefront window next to the restaurant, plus 2 buildings on either side of the apartment building sustained cracks in their front windows and some cosmetic damage. The third thing is that some of the civilians, led by the owner of the apartment building, are building a class-action lawsuit against Mirko. She doesn't have an agency to back her either, so the commission is helping with the settlement costs to keep it as quiet as possible. That's not very quiet at all. Even if the suit is going away, everyone knows about it. The damage is done. And the crux of it is something planted just for Shota himself to find in this video footage. It's in the little things. The way Dabi responded to Mirko's instigating kick. He just let it hit him. He didn't dodge, despite definitely knowing it would tear at his scars. He could have pushed her back with his flames, the same way he kept Shota at a distance during the training camp. But he didn't. He didn't use his quirk at all until he was already at a disadvantage, and he definitely wasn't using it as an active combat tool. And the way Todoroki's ice barely crept up Mirko's calf when he was apparently attempting to incapacitate her. In that same number of seconds, maybe less, Shota has seen Todoroki encase an entire stadium with ice at the sports festival. The way Todoroki didn't even dodge the hits coming at him. The way his fighting style and stance were sloppier than Shota has ever seen. Like, Todoroki wasn't even trying. And the way that Midoriya didn't use his quirk even once, even at the cost of taking the full force of Mirko's kick. Not that it's out of character for Midoriya to make his body pay his pipers. But Shota has seen these kids fight. He has trained them how to fight. He has seen their tics, their habits, their flaws, their strengths. He knows how they fight. This is not it. Any one of them could have held their own against more pros, Mirko included. But they had her 4-1, and they turned tail and ran, sustaining maximum damage without putting a scratch on Mirko. And, to Shota, the explanation is clear as day. They weren't fighting her. They were baiting her. Shinsou's easy win was a dead giveaway. The only person giving their all in this fight was Mirko. Dabi, Todoroki, and Midoriya were all being half-assed at best, which makes no sense until Shinsou's effortless, last-minute win over her. They weren't fighting Mirko. Mirko was an actor they hired for a song to make a point. And they not only made it, they had the unintended benefit of the lawsuit against Mirko. Or maybe the lawsuit was intentional. Fuck. Shota wouldn't put it past Midoriya's intelligence to have started the lawsuit himself. Shota suddenly has a chilling thought. He has been playing checkers with a kid who set up a 4D chess game. No, he hasn't even been a player. He's not even a pawn on the board. He's in the audience, watching over Midoriya's shoulder as he moves the pieces, and he has no clue what the endgame is. Sho? Hizashi's draping himself over his shoulder. He's home from the radio station where Shota knows they have been broadcasting updates about the lawsuit and social media breakouts since yesterday. Shota doesn't mean to say anything. He plans on patting Hizashi's hand, maybe a quick kiss, and then getting back to analyzing this footage. Nobody has asked him to, but Nezu gave him the flash drive with the footage on it anyway. Little Rodin didn't even say anything, just handed it to him after classes were finished today. Hasn't said anything about it since, either. Shota doesn't have the energy to say anything, even for Hizashi, but when he opens his mouth to sigh, a sigh doesn't come out. Instead, he says, "I couldn't keep my promise." To who? Hizashi asks, sitting next to Shota on the couch, leaning into him. Hizashi knows Shota has made many promises. Midoriya. At the UA infiltration. Shota says even though he really doesn't have the energy for this conversation, it's like a physical compulsion. He has to exercise this from his lungs. He has to get it out. He told me to protect Todoroki from something. I couldn't figure out what. Now Todoroki's gone too, and... Shh. Hizashi strokes through his hair. I know, he says. I miss them too, love. I failed again, Shota whispers. I still don't know why, Todoroki. What I had to protect him from. You didn't fail, Hizashi says. I did. That's 4 of my kids, Zashi. I mean our kids, but... I know. It's okay. They're your kids. And they're gone. And it's on me. Have you seen the footage? Yeah. The station got a copy to report on. Dabi protected Todoroki. Why would he do that? It doesn't make sense. He doesn't care about Todoroki, does he? Does he? The footage makes a compelling argument that he does. The way he protected Todoroki multiple times, the way his first move on seeing Todoroki fall over was to scoop him up like a child and get him to safety, even though his arms were dripping blood. And Izuku, will he have broken bones from that? He can't go to Recovery Girl now. Fuck, what I wouldn't give to ask her to just... I know, Sho, Hizashi whispers, wiping Shota's tears. I love them too. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 17 of Watch Your Heroes Fall. Chapter 18 will be next. I hope you all are still enjoying, and as always, thank you so much for listening.